Right.
Okay, hold on 1 second, because it looks like, I think in the chat they actually and it's actually interesting here that I actually have on here the brother Ace Metaphor actually just entered
the chat.
It just entered the video.
That's crazy.
And I think he wants to actually respond on his perspective, because the brother is literally in here backstage right now.
Wow.
As I'm taking video calls. Now, if that's okay, do you mind me bringing up Ace again? Let him say his point.
Oh my.
Ace. So I'm actually about to bring Ace up here to the forefront. And
what's going on?
Ace,
Yo,
what
Ace,
is
what is
popping with you, Ace? We got Ace and TV live in effect. What's up, Ace?
Hey, you know when you got to go to the basement and turn on the studio lights and say, "What's up, man? What's going on?"
Wow.
Hey,
yo,
nice
to meet you.
Everybody knows this setup right here, Ace.
Yes, sir. How y'all been, brothers?
Good, man. Good.
Blessed.
Yeah, glad you joined us, man. Look, glad you got the production set up too. Got that lighting going.
Yeah, and see, the thing about it is, Ace, I'm actually it's interesting that you came up here. Shout out for you being on the Harley initiated video right now. Obviously, you know, Tony has made the way he feels and his stance clear about making sure that people are able to get the best guidance possible from the coaches and the experts in the space. And your platform actually was one that was mentioned. So what's your take and what's your perspective on what was stated?
So
first, did you hear what was stated?
Yeah, I rewatched it. You know, everybody, internet is funny. They tag you real fast. So here's the thing. I respectfully disagree with my brother there. And the reason why I disagree is because there are all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life. While I understand your perspective as a married man, brother, and this is also tagged along to the Instagram post that you guys made a couple weeks ago. While I do understand your perspective, there are so many people right now struggling with dating, getting in and out of situationships, relationships, getting their heart broken. And even then I can say to you, brother, that maybe you're out of touch there. You know what I'm saying? So there are people that I bring on my panel that have walked and touched all different parts of life. This woman may be able to speak to this particular experience. This man may be able to speak to that particular experience. And that might reach somebody in that audience a little bit differently than you can. It doesn't mean that it's better, worse, or indifferent. It just means there are different perspectives. To think that all human beings are monolithic, that our walks of life all take the same course and the same path, and that there's one set of advice to give to all different people, to me seems out of touch. And it disqualifies a lot of people's personal experiences. One of the things I want to correct real quick that I heard that was spoken, now that we know the name is on there, like, we do have married people on our panel. That was the most confusing part about the whole thing. There are married people and there are actual relationship coaches and professionals that we bring. We have had therapists, we have had life coaches, we have had mentors, we've had people that are actively in the community be regular parts of our discussions. And so I just felt like it was a little bit of misinformation, and it comes from not actually, observing what we got going on. But I
observe what you have going on. But let me ask you this: what is the purpose of dating?
It depends on who you asking. My purpose, if you ask me specifically,
in the scope of society, in the scope of family, what is the purpose of dating?
For some people, for a large percentage of the people, the scope of dating, if you're being intentional, is to find a husband or wife.
Correct. So,
but let me ask you this question, a follow-up question. Is that the reason why everyone dates?
Is that the reason
why everybody dates? Is that the reason?
But what I'm saying is, we shouldn't promote what the devil doing. We shouldn't promote what is disadvantageous. So if someone is dating for sex, if someone is dating for fun, us as people with a platform should be promoting what is going to benefit society, not what is going to confuse society. So Albert Einstein said you cannot solve a problem from the same level it was created. So having people who are dating, talking to people who are dating, someone who's dating can't help someone who's dating, because the goal of dating is marriage. So a married person can tell someone who is dating, this is what you need to look out for while you're dating. This is what you need to check off. This is what you need.
When the last time you've been actively dating multiple people? When the last time you've actively been dating? Like, not your wife, but you've been in a dating market.
This is what you have to understand.
No, so it's the question. You asked me a very direct question. I gave you an answer.
I'm answering you. I'm answering
go ahead.
you. Dating is principle based. It doesn't matter if it's 2023 or 1903. A relationship is based on principles, not the culture, not the trend, not the fad. Love does not change. Love stays the same because God is love and God does not change. Love is not contingent upon strip clubs and pornography and Instagram and social media. So the same way that my wife and I dated is the same way that people who will have a healthy marriage date today. But what you're trying to say is that we should date differently today because it's 2023, and that's not true, because a relationship is based on principles. So
Now,
what
is that, before you go forward, let me say this. I want to be very clear here. Specifically, I said people are not monolithic. Right now, you're bringing in God, devil, the Bible, and those are your particular principles. And I respect that, brother. I grew up religious too. I respect what you're saying. Dating, the main purpose of dating, it should be to find a mate. People shouldn't have sex before marriage. From the biblical perspective, I understand your perspective, brother, but I'm not going to dismiss your perspective simply because it doesn't align with mine or this person's or that person. I think the particular problem isn't me saying that your take is wrong. I respect it. I enjoy listening to your content. But to say how things should work for all people and dismiss everyone else that doesn't speak your particular alignment, to me, is irresponsible. And the reason I say that is because there are all sorts of people doing all sorts of things, loving all sorts of ways. And if you think that your way is the only way that works, brother, I commend you. I'm just saying there are people from all walks of life that need to hear other perspectives, either to solidify theirs or make them curious about another way that could work better for them. Brother, the one thing you said that was really interesting to me,
you're telling me who you're working for.
You said what?
You're telling me who you're working for.
And that's why a lot of people, look,
but meaning you tell
when you say that, when you say that, you go, when you and what you're saying,
you're working to provide a platform for all of the voices, for all the different types of people, because people are not a monolith. So the voices that you are giving a platform to have no success if they are not in a healthy relationship.
I just told you that there are people on our panel that are married.
Exactly. That's not what's being
posted. Hey, I got a quick question here, Ace, because just to see if.
Okay, so I'm gonna play more clips of this particular issue, right? I'm gonna have an unpopular opinion. I know Tony is everybody's guy. But the brother is partly wrong in this situation. Can't lie to you. I know Tony is everybody's guy, but listen to me very carefully. He's partly wrong. As Christians, we need to understand that the Bible talks about the law, and that the law is applied to his people. It's not applied to the people who are outside of who love him. The law isn't applied to people who are outside of him. The law was not applied to Gentiles. It was applied to Jews. It's not applied to people outside, right? We have to be understanding that in reality, we are not the only people dating in a dating environment. Not everybody's Christian. And so trying to apply Christian values and Christian wisdom to everything is a problem, because not everybody responds to you. You're not the only market. You understand what I'm saying to you? One thing I've always understood is that when it comes to relationships, my backing or my understanding is coming from a Christian perspective, right? So when I talk about relationships, I bring the principles that I've learned from the Bible and from my Christian faith. What I don't do is try to make things a monolith. I try to make it adaptable, because in reality, not everybody is going to apply and believe in what I have to say because they don't have the same faith. And we got to stop trying to make everything a monolithic aspect, because that is not your audience. You have an audience. Your audience who listen to you are people who want that faith perspective. There are people coming from other faiths who are in, and I keep saying this to people all the time. I said this to someone, I said this to somebody, I said, you don't need Jesus to be in a successful marriage. And the person was like, what? You're a Christian. How can you say that? I said, you don't need Jesus. He's like, what? I said, yeah, you don't. Because as our brother just said, it's the principles. There are people who are not Christian who have stayed in marriages as long until death do them part. Therefore, do they need Jesus? It's principles. That's what Tony Gaskin was actually saying as well, right? Tony Gaskin was making it clear. It's the principles. It's the principles that make people stay in relationships this long, right? And my thing is this. I don't agree with everything Ace Metaphor says, but I actually don't always agree with what Tony Gaskin says. My only issue with Tony Gaskin as a conclusion, and I'll start diving into the video, is that I watched part 1 of this video and I came to a particular conclusion. I said, oh my God, I don't know if I want to say that. Right? I said, I don't know if I want to, I don't know if I want to go all that way, like, and say that about what I sense from Tony Gaskin's. right? But then I spoke to a friend, and the friend was like, yo, I got the same thing. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not crazy. Because I was like, I don't know, I keep feeling this situation. But something that I've been listening to Tony Gaskins, there's an arrogance that I don't like. And everyone's got their faulty. Mine, I got a lust situation. So everyone's got their faults. You get what I'm saying to you? Me, I've got my own little ego, my own little arrogance as well. But Tony does something that I really don't like. Because even Christian, we shouldn't do this. You're not the only voice. We need to stop acting as if we're the only voice that can determine and do good work. When you do that, you become an idol. And the very thing you're trying to fight, you actually become. You cannot be the only voice that speaks. The Bible tells us that Elijah thought he was the only one and God had reserved 7,000. Stop thinking you're the only one. And something that Tony Gaskins does, and I'm going to show you some clips. I was like, whoa, he keeps going on like as if he's the only one that can speak. And I said, that's a problem. That's arrogant. That's really arrogant. And you're making yourself an idol by making yourself the only one. Listen, I don't agree with everything Ace Metaphor says, but he has a market. He has a market, right? People are going to listen to me. They're not going to like everything I got to say. There are going to be other people. Not everyone likes Derek Jackson. Not everyone likes Stephen Speaks. You're not supposed to. You're not one man. Not one person is meant to have every single market, right? But I need him to open his spectrum of mindset because he's not bad. Tony, he's a great person who's a great communicator. He's great at the relationship aspect. He knows how to get his message across, right? But you know, I need him to understand. I need him to understand that he's not the only voice. Right? He's not the only voice. I'm sure he probably did say later on that he's not the only voice. I know at first he was saying about R.C. Blakes as well. So I'm not saying that, but it's on more than one. It's part 2. I listened to part 1. He did the same thing. Right? In part 1, he did the exact same thing. He made it as if he's the only one. And I need to understand, just because people don't even have a platform, you're not the only one. What you need to be, all you need to do is say, listen, find people that align with your Christian principles and Christian thoughts and ideas. That's it. You get what I'm saying to you, right? I think we need to be honest and open and understand people have different missions, right? You're not the only righteous one, because it makes us look like we are self-righteous. You know what I mean? Right? There are going to be Muslim people who are talking to their Muslim people. We're going to be other people. Like, why are we discussing about Ace Metaphor if Ace Metaphor is not aligning himself as a Christian? You get what I'm saying to you? Right? If they're not Christian, I can't even hold them to the Christian tenets. Right? What we should be discussing is ideas. And where I might say I don't agree with you. And also another thing I don't particularly like about what Tony Gaskin's does, the brother said to him, I respect you at the end. He said, I don't respect you. What? What are we doing? What are we doing here? Right? I may not respect that you have a different faith or a different religion. And I feel like, you know what, but we've got to be very, very careful. Like when we start going down this lane, I think we've got to be very, very careful, because me personally, listen, there's things that we just don't need to say. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes Tony be saying stuff and I'm like, bro, you didn't need to say that. That didn't need to come out your mouth. I don't respect him. And it's like, but he just has a different point of view to yours, and his market is different from yours, right? And because also I've heard on part one, when Tony was speaking to Hardly Initiated, he said something really frank. He said, I don't respect a man that's not married. I was like, what the frick? I don't respect a man as a man if he's not married. I'm like, wait, what? Like, you know what I mean? I'll get my notes and go back into, because I did a whole video. I didn't release it because I was like, I'm not sure if I want to release this just yet, because maybe I'm not really looking at Tony Gaskins the way I need to look at him, you know, because I respect his work, you know. I respect his work, and grace and mercy. I'm giving him grace. I'm giving him grace. That's what I'm trying to say to you. I'm giving him grace. But what we have to be honest about is you can't keep going on like you're the only one. You know what I mean? Because now you're in contention. You know what I mean? I don't mind him talking about people. you're gonna disagree with people at different points. What I'm saying is, you're not the only one. You know what I'm saying to you? I'm not the only one. There are people who do great interviews. I'm not the only one. There are people who do great work. I'm not the only one. There are people who have other platforms. I'm not the only one. When I was preaching, I'm not the only one. Right? I'm not the only one. So for me personally, that's the kind of parts I don't like. It's like, we don't need to be in that space and do that. Now, so again, of course, like I said, we are all growing and learning, including myself. There's gonna be stuff that I'm gonna say that's gonna be immature. There's gonna be stuff that I'm gonna say that's not gonna be, that today maybe makes sense, and tomorrow I'm gonna be like, whoa, that was a bit, I've grown now. I'm a bit better than I was then. You know what I mean? Right? So I just think we need to be very careful about the way we discuss certain things. I think I'll let you guys finish with the last part of that part of the video. This was obviously a good conversation. So
if there's even any common ground, do you feel like there are some people who should not be putting out relationship content? Do you also feel like there is a group of people who you would deem unqualified to speak on these topics?
Personally,
yes.
Man, it's real interesting. I'm so busy with my play, brother, that I don't really look across the aisle. There are content creators that I don't particularly vibe with. I don't like their rhetoric. I don't like the way they speak to women in general.
Well,
but
I'm not being specific about any one person. I just mean, like, do you more so, because obviously Tony pretty much stands on, if you're not married, like, you should not necessarily be putting out this work.
I think that's probably, respectfully, man, I think that is
or you just have to frame the conversation. You have to frame the conversation. You have to say, this is not relationship advice. This is my dating experience.
Brother, I don't really think that, to your point, and to answer the question before, do I feel like there are people that are not qualified to give general advice or relationship advice to a large percentage of the population? Absolutely. I think that there's people that are not qualified to my metrics. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem with somebody getting out here and saying, this is why I think this or I think that. But what I am saying is, for us to not acknowledge the diversity in people and thought processes and ways in which relationships and love can work for many different people, that to me is hard to wrap my head around. That's the thing that I want to say. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around. It sounds elitist. It sounds like, you know what I'm saying? And then when you say something, Tony, respectfully, when you say you're working for the other side, struggle, because I think you're implying that the other side is the devil, right? Is that what you're implying?
Meaning you're working for the other side of providing confusion. Because if you have 6 voices on the stage and there's 6 different messages, people leave more confused than they came. And if the people who we are seeing by the millions are not saying anything worthwhile, but it's a meaningless back and forth conversation that does not bring a solution, that does not help us build families, that does not help us better raise children, that does not help us climb the ladder as a people, as a group who are struggling economically, struggling relationally, struggling in every way. When we provide conversations that only bring confusion and don't bring clarity,
it don't seem like
by you working for
it really don't seem like, in my opinion, you actually pay much attention to what we got going on over here, brother. And that's respectfully. I'm respectfully saying that. I'm respectfully.
I want to also be aware as well, like, not everyone has the same job. Maybe his job is to entertain. I think we need to be that very clear as well. Some people's job is to entertain and to host conversations, right? So some of us are here to some of us are here to solve issues. Some of us are here to to be initiators of ideas. Some people are people that entertain. Some people, like, there are different jobs within a range, right? So what Tony does is not necessarily what Ace Metaphor does, right? It's not exactly what the same thing they do. He may not be called to the same thing he does. And again, he's not, Ace Metaphor is not Christian per se. So his job is going to be so much more different. You got what I'm saying to you? And I think, in reality, like I said, I remember someone said to me, I remember someone said this to me, that how can I give advice to anybody that is married? And I said, I don't need to be married to give you advice, because here's the thing, I'm only solving an issue. If you ask me to solve an equation, do I have the answer to solve the equation? That's all you need to know. Do I have the wisdom? That's it. I'm not here to necessarily tell you how to get married. That's not my job. My job is to solve issues. And that's what I'm good at. And there are other people who will tell you, listen, here's a process and a step to get married. There are other people that tell you, this is how we stay married. My thing is, how do we solve an issue? How do we use psychology? How do we use our faith to solve issues, right? How do we maintain certain things? Like, that's my job. So I stay in my lane. You know what I'm saying to you, right? I can't tell you how to be married for 20, 30 years. I haven't done no videos where how to be married for 10 years. How to marry, I don't do those videos because I don't know. I'm single. My job is to solve an issue. That's it. And what happens is Tony will end up disqualifying people when he doesn't need to, because they're not playing the same role he's playing. He just needs to understand he's got a role and there were others playing a different type of role that they're doing. And so he just needs to be able to be nuanced enough to be able to just kind of see that. I don't know. I haven't watched all of Ace Metaphor's stuff. I've seen some of the panels that he's got, right? I may not agree with all the things they say, but there's some wisdom in what some of these people say. I remember I listened to a thing with Kitty. Kitty is on one of the panels. Great person. You know, right? Great person. You know, so I think that's another key thing too. Like there's some people on there who I've seen Kitty, and I think the other two I'm not really sure. There's a girl, the light-skinned girl, I'm not really sure acquainted with her particular work, and everything. But we have to also remember as well that you know, I think we have to also understand as well that that while some people have a purpose, and like he said, you know, his purpose, whatever, for some people their purpose is they're part of their business. So of course he might be creating entertainment, and that may mean, you know, maybe bringing one or two people that are going to cause a bit more entertainment flex or whatever, right? And that's understandable. It's a business, you know what I mean? It's a business. I totally understand it. I get it. It's your business, and part of that may be to entertain as well. So I think I just think we need to be very bit more nuanced. And just be careful how we hone in a little bit, and just be a little bit more nuanced. Like I've said, I don't like what Derek Jaxn does, but when you listen to his advice, he be giving some good advice. I don't like it, but he be giving some good advice. Now it's pandering, but he be giving some good advice, right? So I'm not against Derek Jaxn in the terms of his advice. I'm against Derek Jaxn because of what he was doing to his wife. You know what I'm saying to you, right? So in that aspect, yeah. You know what I mean? So I just think that we just need to be a little bit more nuanced, and this conversation benefits even more, right? He could be working with Ace Metaphor and say, hey, bro, look, this is where we disagree, right? This is where we disagree. And this is what I would say. And your audience who are meant to hear you and listen to you, because the Bible even talks about those who that have ears hear. There are always going to be people that are going to hear your perspective and people who won't. And so it's not necessary that I don't need to. If I was on a show with Ace Metaphor, I wouldn't agree with everything he says. I'll just tell you, this is my truth. This is what I believe. This is my perspective. This is my thoughts, right? And I won't necessarily need to be fighting Ace Metaphor. I can just say Ace Metaphor might say, bro, I disagree with you. I'm like, all right, cool, disagree with me. Because in the end, it's conversation, and no one has got all the answers. You know what I mean to you? And sometimes there is multiple ways to kill a cat. Multiple, you know, multiple ways. So my thing is being very careful just to not try to home it in all the way. We need to be very careful not to try and zone in so directly, right? And just be more nuanced and be open to understanding different perspectives. You get what I'm saying to you? Because here's my thing. Why, if Tony Gaskins wants to talk about perspectives, he went on a national television show where there were some couples who were doing poly stuff, right? Michael Blackson and his wife have an partly open relationship. But you know what I mean? But you want to go in and you want to be on a show where you potentially would have to end up counseling them. You know what I'm saying to you? So, like, at the end of the day, listen, just don't be so Zoom. Be a little bit open. I'm just saying, be a little bit more open. I understand where he's coming from. It just feels a bit like you're the only one, and I don't think that's the case.
Respectfully saying, when you can use the adjectives you want to use, and then you don't empty messages. You can use all these adjectives, but just because you're making these blanket statements, that's why I said it's dangerous. It's dangerous when you're making blanket statements without having all the factual information.
Statement. It's not a blanket.
It is a blanket statement. You're making blanket statements. And you're putting people's names in it. You're putting people's names in it.
I'm living this as a husband and a
your
father,
truth,
which is successful for
you.
And for our community. It's not just for me. Principles are principles. So,
right, but your principle, you're not the only person with principles.
You're promoting casual sex. You're promoting hookup culture. And then you say, let me ask you this. You having a conversation? You watching me online. You say you appreciate my message. Why haven't you called me to your conversation?
You know what? Why he doing all that? Look, why he doing all that? Now listen, he doing all that.
You say you bringing all the voices. You say you bringing all.
Whoa! You doing all that? You doing all that?
How you not gonna call somebody who got 3.5 million people online and have been in the trenches since 2007, but you bringing all the sides? You ain't bringing all the sides. You ain't bringing all the sides. You bringing the side that you want to bring, and then you trying to take me to task for my words, and you trying to hold me for every word, but you didn't catch that you just call what you doing a play. I call what I do purpose.
What do you? I don't know what you mean about a plate.
You just said I'm so focused on my play.
So my plate, PLATE, plate. This is the last. I messaged you March 10th. Yo, would love to feature on my podcast. We're shooting April 28th, 29th. Any interest? And then it was like an automatic reply that said you don't receive messages, so I didn't attempt that way again. Brother, like, respect.
Yeah, bro, I got a website, man. You know how to reach me. I got a website.
Man, I'm 35, brother. We do things a little differently.
I'm 39, bro. Don't act like you in another generation.
So here's the thing. It sounds like we might be seeing TG on the next
tonight's conversation.
That's what it sounds like.
Just him and Ace.
And here's the thing too. Tony Gaskin saw that he messaged him because he actually mentioned it. I don't want to say. I think he messaged. We've never spoken, but he messaged me. So Tony's like, bro, you saw the message. Even though you automatically messaged, you saw the message. You just didn't want to respond, which is fair because it doesn't align with your brand. Do you know what I'm saying to you? I hear that.
By the way, that's enough. That's enough for the stage. Just him and Ace.
You know you can't put this. Ace, you know you can't put a brother like this on the stage with anybody that's even halfway single. Now here's the thing. Here's what I want to ask about this.
And that's the problem. Why can't Tony Gaskins be on the stage with somebody who's single? Why can't Tony Gaskins be on a show with somebody who's single? Because this is the argument I had with Tony. No, this is the disagreement I had with Tony Gaskins in my head was the one thing that should be topping all of us is wisdom. So is that wisdom paramounting? That's where we're gonna, you know what I mean? And wisdom can be looked in different ways. It's not gonna sound exactly the same, right? Because on the person's perspective and their viewpoint and what they've experienced, right? So the major thing should be, Tony, do you adhere to my wisdom or do I adhere to your wisdom? Wisdom, okay, is our paramount thing. It's what leads us. Right? It's what leads us. So yes, you've been married for a very long time and you've got it locked for your marriage. And I totally understand that and I respect that as well, right? Someone else who's single might have some advice or might have some word or have a perspective. And how we're gonna judge it is this wisdom? And that's how I judge it by. I judge it by, is it wisdom? I don't judge it by whether you're married or not, because there are married folks who ain't got it together. You know what I mean?
Listen, I don't mind being single people. What I'm saying is frame the conversation. We can't let it go out as relationship advice. This is a single experience, or this is a hookup experience, or this is I'm divorced and I'm telling you what went wrong in my marriage. But this is going out to the millions as relationship advice. And so what I'm saying is, if you send the message of a single man who is having sex with women and dating, if you send that message viral, give the equal pressure and push of the therapist that you say you have on there, or the married person that you say you have on there who is happy and healthy, and do that split test of A and B so that it balances the conversation. Anytime I see something from tonight's conversation, it's on the same side of the line, and it is very confusing. I don't know what I just heard, what the purpose of it was. It's a man arguing at a woman arguing at a man, and there's no solution, there's no takeaway. It's all sensationalism, and one thing that I know is happening is money is being made, but there's no progress being made. And then a lot of times, if it's progress, we're going to feel it. And so my thing is, I'm not with the confusion and the games. I'm very direct in what I say. I'm very real about what I stand on. And at this stage in our life, especially in the Black race, we need results. We need solutions. We need progression. We need, we need healthy families.
I want to respond to that because again,
are you married?
No, I'm not. Again,
so how
hey brother, I don't let you get your long little monologues out, and I just want to respond. What I'm saying to you is, I wish you would say I more when you speak. This is how I feel. This is what I think. This is the path. Because my only issue with what you're saying is you're not including that. Brother, if that works for you, great. But you have to understand the people that come ask questions at our shows, they're asking about them having casual sex. They're asking about this heartbreak that they didn't experience. They're asking about how do they find themselves again, how to have self-forgiveness, how to do this, that, and other. They're asking about a host of different things, brother. And sometimes I'm the most qualified person to speak to their experience or to give them advice on it. Sometimes it's Kitty. Sometimes it's Trip, the person you said, oddly, never been that guy, but I've known Trip since we were kids and he's always been that guy. My point I'm trying to make is it would probably benefit to do a little bit more homework here. You know what I'm saying? And that's me being respectful. And then when you speak to every clip that you've seen, every 60-second clip that you've seen may speak more about your algorithm than you think. Brother, we post a host of different clips. If you go down our page right now, you'll see
That's true.
4 or 5 clips on forgiveness. You'll see 4 or 5 clips on motherhood. You'll see 4 or 5 clips on us progressing as Black people in this country. And my point is, even further, if you want to actually watch the episodes, you'll get a further context. Brother, I can't speak for your algorithm, brother. Yes, we post a host of different.
You're not on my algorithm. I'm just correcting you. You're not on my algorithm.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
I'll let you finish your monologues.
No, I just don't want you to put out false things because we do grab.
Like you are.
I'm just letting you know that it's not from my algorithm.
Right. So
now, Tony, it is from your algorithm. Okay, your algorithm takes a part 2. Okay, Tony, just saying. When I pronounce, and also what you speak about as well. So whatever you speak about also takes a part of your algorithm too. Just want to say that. So, I mean, just you know, I know he didn't want to take no accountability for that, but just saying that part too. You know what I mean?
So if you haven't, so what I'm saying is, if you haven't properly, this is my thing, and I respect your work, and I would love to have you on the panel. I think even coming to a show, you would see how different of an experience than what you think it actually is, how it would be. But what I would say is this: whether it's your algorithm or not, whether it's people sending it to you or not, yes, we post, we host and field a whole bunch of different questions from people from different walks of life and experiences. And so, yes, one question may be quote unquote sensationalized, but that was a real question from an audience member. This question may be like, man, how do I find my confidence again after postpartum depression? And that's a clip that got just as many viral views. This question might be about somebody having casual sex and being flown out. But this question was about a woman saying, you know what, I feel like a single mother, even though I'm married. What do I do? And that clip got 10, 15 million views too. I can't speak to just a few clips that you've seen. And so when you're using that to frame, when you're using that to frame and say,
hey, calm down though, bro, because you're getting a little too much bass in your voice. So,
Mr. Gaskins, when you first of all, here's the thing. Anybody has watched my videos know I talk that way, brother. When you say some stuff like that, you know what you're saying, dog. What I'm saying is, you got on the platform and you're spreading misinformation. You're spreading misinformation. You say don't spread misinformation about an algorithm, but you got on this platform and you've already admitted that you ain't really deep dived in our content, and you speaking as if you know what we are doing. And so we want to take your base.
Listen, I got a question.
I have to be honest, right? Based on the clips that do come out from Ace Metaphor and today's conversation, I'll be honest with you, I don't always get depth from their conversations, right? I don't always. Doesn't mean I haven't seen some. I don't always, right? So those clips are salacious because they're done on purpose to draw people in, right? They choose the most naughtiest clips to draw people in. But what I have never seen is them ever, for me, listening to conversation and hearing different points of view is really important because we all think differently. Tonight's conversation, thank you for that, right? I've heard different points of conversation from them. I actually really enjoy their platform. They're usually respectful. They have real conversations. People are asking real questions, and they have a variety of conversations that go across the board. I love it. I love listening to different panels because they're giving different points of view. You know what I mean? So for me personally, I think this I don't have a problem with their situation, right? I may not agree with every advice they give, but I don't agree with every advice other people give. In fact, sometimes I even disagree with myself. Once I read it, watch it back, I'm like, damn, that was wrong. You know what I mean? So what I felt like was that Tony's statements about them without doing the research that he needed to do. When I was talking about Kevin Samuels, I started watching his shows. And that's why I was able to talk about some of the things that Kevin Samuels was actually saying. Because I would go and I'd watch it and I'd be like, damn, you know what? A lot of what he says is actually true. And there's parts of it that are destructive. Tony agrees to that. He said the same thing, right? I've watched Derek Jaxn and I've gone to watch actual shows, the video clips in its entirety, what he done. You actually have to spend a lot of time watching what people do. I like to watch them because I want to be able to say that when I say this, I know what I'm talking about. You get what I'm saying to you? I like to watch your videos and make sure I know what I'm talking about because I don't want it to be wrong. I don't like being wrong. So I don't like someone saying, well, you didn't watch the video. And I'm like, oh, okay. But if I watch a couple of your videos and I watch this in entirety, I get a theme, I get an understanding, I get an idea. You know what I mean? Right? So in that aspect, I think Tony just maybe just needs a little bit more work, just around maybe, to be able to understand, right, that people are having different conversations, having different ideas, in that spectrum, and he just needs to be able to, to be aware that you're not, again, the only voice in the outer field. There are other different voices out there. And Blondie, if you don't want to watch Foolishness, That's your prerogative. You are not the only person in the world. That's the whole point. You see, that's the arrogance that we have as Christians. You're not the only person in this world. The Bible says you are in the world, but though you're in this world, you're not a part of it. You're not the only person here. So therefore, there are going to be other people who have different viewpoints, and you need to be able to be open to the fact that other people have different viewpoints. We cannot be closed-minded and think we have all the answers. Can't. As Christians, we can't. We can't, because even your understanding, right? Even your understanding is limited to your perspective and what you've understood and what you've grasped. So there are different people. You know, there are different people. So we just got to be able to understand that, right? Just got to be able to understand that. Listen, we got to be aware that other people have different viewpoints and different ways of looking at things, and not everybody. Okay, not everybody has the same viewpoint as you, and that's okay, right? That's okay, right? That's okay. And again, this is not a bashing on Tony Gaskins. It's me just highlighting the fact that there's a part of it where I just need him to open it up a little bit. You know, that's all I'm saying, right? All I'm saying is that we just need to open it up a little bit, because it's sounding too narrow right now. You know what I mean? That's all. And those of us, you know, I know we're gonna have some Christians in the chat are saying it's because it's convicting people and the message is No, it's not. It's arrogance, and we need to stop that. As a Christian, we need to be very aware when we're starting to tread on arrogance. There's a way to communicate a particular message. It becomes arrogance when we're not being nuanced about understanding how we're delivering a message. We have to be very careful. This is not a gospel message. It's a relationship aspect. So we got to be very careful. When we start doing this Christian, oh, it's convicting, so that's why no one wants to listen. No, be very careful. Let your wisdom lead. God's wisdom is ultimate. So speak on it. Do you see what I'm saying to you? God's wisdom is ultimate. So speak on it. But when you start going down this lane, you're losing it. Right? Because there are some things that need to be corrected, which are destructive. And there's some things where we're like, that, you know what? That's a nuance. Right? There are some things where we say that's destructive. That doesn't work. Yes, we have to correct that. And there are some things that are just like, that's a nuance. Let me let that go. You get what I'm saying to you? Right? We got to be very careful what message we're sending, because now it's almost like we're trying to defend Tony's arrogance in this aspect with, well, it's convicting. That's why. No, it's not. It's not. It's when someone's becoming arrogant, we have to just be aware of it. And I'm saying this from a perspective of, I'm not perfect. I have arrogance too, and I have ego too. So when I know, because I can see it, because I have the same thing. And there's been points in my time, and that's why I have to come out and I have to apologize, and I have to say sorry. I do a whole video where I apologize for what I've said, because I want to be accountable to you guys and say, hey, look, I'm not perfect, and I do make mistakes. And when I make mistakes, I got to say sorry because I've impacted people. You got what I'm saying to you? That's why I do those videos, so you know where I'm coming from. So you know that, okay, when he's giving it, he's not just saying, oh, so you look perfect. No, I'm also got problems that I need to deal with. I also have issues. I also can make mistakes. I also at points have to be aware of the ego that can start to play a role in how I do certain things. I have to be aware of that. And so that when I give advice, I'm like, oh, okay, wait, hold on, guys, just in case. You know me, I've also made mistakes, and, you know, I've had to come and apologize, and it takes a lot out of me to do it. But, you know, that's what I'm saying. So just let's be very careful of that as Christians. Just be very careful about that. Like, is it about the fact the word convicts? Is this a scenario that's about the word convicting, or is this a scenario where someone's actually misinterpreting how to really deliver a conversation to someone? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying to you? So we just got to be very much aware of that. And you're right. Listen, there are going to be some people that are going to misdeliver certain people. But the reality of the situation is your law is not going over the heads of Gentiles. This is the problem I'm trying to get you to understand. You're trying to apply your law to people that are not Gentiles. And I always say this to people. There are people who are not Christians who have marriages and have reached the end. How did they do it? Stick to the principles. That's it. That's it. Stick to the principles. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Because of our people, because my thing is when I talk to people who are not Christian, my first thing I'm trying to understand is how have you been married for 20 years? Or you're Muslim. How did you stay together for 20 years? Okay, how did you stay together for 30 years? How have you done it for 10 years? I ask the wisdom of what they're going through. What makes you do, and when I take what I can from them. It's not everything I accept, but I take what I can from them. Right? I take what I can from them. That's why I said. That when I sat on a plane last year, and I was on a plane with this white lady, and she's high flying, right? High flying person. And her husband's also high flying. And I sat there for an hour and a bit, and I just listened to her story. She wasn't Christian. So should I disqualify her now because also she's not a Christian too? I wanted to understand her wisdom. How did you guys manage to do 16 years? How have you done it? Let me listen to what you got to say. 16. Okay, I already have my principles, right? And the things that don't align with my faith, I will remove it. We just got to be very careful of that. You know what I mean? We don't want to become the arrogant people that don't know how to really understand how to deliver a message. That's not how Jesus came across. You know? If someone said you should disqualify her, I didn't disqualify her because she had some good sense. You know, not some good sense. You know what I mean? In that aspect. You know what I mean? So
that's what he's doing.
1 second.
Hey, so let me ask you this question because we got the super chats coming in, and I think this is a question that the chat really wants to know. And shout out to Beautify Ballerine. She says, if the goal is marriage, how can someone give relationship advice that leads to a successful marriage if they are not married?
So the answer to the question is, if that person's individual goal is marriage. I want to first say that. If that person's individual goal is marriage, that's one thing. And for that being said, there are people, to Tony's point, that have navigated that course and can give better insight if the goal is to be married. And you can look at their track history. This is why we have married people on our panel. Okay. But not everybody's goal in dating is marriage. Brothers, for every one person that's dating to try to find marriage, there's 3 or 4 people dating just to find themselves. There's 4 or 5 people dating in an experimental way. There's 6 or 7 people dating just to distract themselves from a heartbreak. So not everybody that's out here dating is dating to be married. And some people are dating just for fun. They're dating from a recreational sense. We get up here on this podcast say, oh, in a perfect world, everybody would be dating for marriage. But this world ain't perfect. Most of your listeners have been led on or misled or time has been wasted on somebody they thought was intentionally dating, but that person was just recreational or experimental dating. So my point is, yes, if the goal is marriage and 2 people link and both of their goals are united as marriage, yes, a spiritual path for that and spiritual advice is a good place to start. Somebody like Tony will be a great place to start. But getting to a person and finding a person and avoiding people that are not there to get you there is also a path too. And there are people that have been in this dating situation so long that they know how to recognize red flags a little bit better than people that haven't. And so those people have a voice too. And those people reach people too. So for us to act like we live in this idealistic world where everything is how it should be, and we're not dealing with a whole bunch of BS in this dating situation, I just think is out of touch for real.
Now let me say this because it's some people in the chat now that's a little worried. The thing is, both of y'all are leaders in the space, regardless of who likes what. Both of y'all got millions of.
And that man told me to take some bass out of my voice, and that crossed the line to me.
Listen, hey,
it did cross the line when he said take the bass out of it. Across the line.
Yeah,
bro, I always got bass in my voice.
Listen, I really don't want to have to end this conversation.
Keep the love.
Because I do got just one more question. Because like I was saying,
I feel like that was unprofessional. It really was.
Hey, stop with the gaslighting. It was unprofessional.
It was unprofessional because he didn't need to say take the bass out of your voice. He was just being passionate, and Tony was trying to sun him. And that's the thing I'm trying to talk about, the arrogance. Tony was trying to sun him in that moment. He was sunning him. He didn't need to sun him. It really didn't. He was just being passionate about what he was saying. And he was like, take the bass out of your voice. And really what he was doing was trying to sun him in that moment, right? That's what Tony was doing. Let's just keep it a buck what it was. It was trying to sun him, right? In that moment. Yeah.
Professional with you yelling. So we having a conversation. Fellas. What you got to realize is what I'm telling you is,
yo, have you seen any of my videos, bro?
Yes, I've seen your videos.
How do I do my videos?
What did I say?
Wait, fellas, I don't want to get too caught up in the conversation about this because
that's what I try to tell y'all though. This is what I try to tell y'all. Y'all want to bring Ace on here? Let Ace come on here and talk. If you bring me on here, let me talk because I don't. Where God bring clarity, the devil bring confusion. All this is
there you go again, bro.
More people. And so I stand on what I stand on, bro. I draw a line in the sand. You trying to placate to everybody and their mama. I don't care about what this lifestyle, that lifestyle. I'm focused on what's better for the people. And one thing that I see is that a 2-parent household with healthy love is always going to be a child's choice if they have a choice. If they forced to be with one parent, then they will accept that. But if they get to choose, they're going to say, I want two parents in the home,
Agreed.
exemplifying love, supporting me.
Yep.
I could talk to this parent about this. I could talk to that parent about this. Life is not about doing what makes us feel good and what we want. Life is about purpose, and it's about doing what hurts sometimes. Life is about doing what we have to do, not what we want to do. Do you think as a man that I just want? It's not that I just want to be with one woman. I have to die out to myself. I have to crucify my flesh for the good of my family, for the good of society, for the betterment of the world. So yes, somebody may want to just hook up. Somebody may be dating to heal. But when they want to do that, we need to be there to say, hey, you should not be dating to heal. You need to heal before you deal. You should not be dating to just hook up, because you are having sexually transmitted diseases, and you can catch a physically transmitted disease that alters your life. So it's not about just giving a platform. Not everybody want to live life legally, but we don't need to give a platform to people who want to live illegally. Not everybody want to do half of the things right, but we don't need to give them a platform for the sake of let's let everybody speak when they're speaking from their mess, when they're speaking from their brokenness, when they're speaking from their pain. So it's a time and a place for everything, and you give a space to people who are doing what is good for society as a whole. It's not just about making money. It's not just about touring and being famous. And the thing about it is if you're having these conversations every night on tonight's conversation, and the conversation is productive, then you should be able to see one of the multiple millions of women who are qualified to be your wife. So if your own conversations can't help you find your wife and settle down and be married and have a family with your wife, then what is the point of these conversations if the creator can't even benefit from it? So that's my point.
See that, and that is exactly what I'm talking about. Why would he have? I don't agree with that at all. That last part, I don't agree with it. Right? He was going good until he got to that end point. Just because I am a part of a process where I'm building other people up does not mean I'm even, first of all, doesn't mean I'm ready to even be ready today. Okay. It does not mean that I'm in a space today or find my wife. It also means as well that the person also too could be in their own process in their own time. They could be in their own process in their own time. And the reason why I said it's incorrect is because I know what he said in part 1, and I did a whole video now. I'll release it later now. In part 1, when he talks about who he respects, I said you wouldn't respect Paul then. You wouldn't respect Paul in the Bible, because Paul in the Bible was single but given marriage advice. You wouldn't respect Paul because Paul was talking about married people, and yet he wasn't married, he was single. Do you see the problem with that? If we go to that particular aspect, you're going to fail. You're going to blanket everybody, and it's going to be a problem. Gonna have a problem. I don't respect people just because you're married, or respect people because you're single. I don't respect people because of that. I respect you because of the wisdom that you carry, whether you're Christian or whether you're not Christian, because I'm going to discern whether what you're saying has some wisdom to it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you, right? We have to understand that. Okay. All right. And what we're starting to do is the legalistic stuff. Right. And I hear you, Lisa. I'm gonna hear you, but I'm gonna challenge you. I'm trying to make you understand something. How can somebody who's single talk on married stuff? If we have blanket statements, it would rule out Paul. Paul didn't have a partner. So if Paul starts talking about marriage stuff, that's how people in the world then start questioning Paul and say, well, that's why Paul's so misogynistic in the Bible. That's why he was telling women to keep quiet. That's why Paul was telling people that, you know, that they shouldn't talk. You open yourself up for arguments of that particular aspect. That is not our argument as Christians. The wisdom that God has given that person is what we're judging that person by. Do you have wisdom? What you're saying, does it carry any wisdom? Now, if you're talking nonsense, you're talking nonsense. Right? If you're talking nonsense, you're talking nonsense. And I will agree with that. Right? But then like I said, if we have blanket statements, okay, no, you can't use culture and thing being different. You can't. You can't now turn it around and say culture is different. And this is why I'm saying to you, the argument will become convoluted. We don't argue on this point. That's why we can't make the blanket statement about who we respect because one is single and one is not single. We can't have that statement. This goes into legalistic kind of thinking. We are based on grace message. When it comes to grace, we don't operate on legalistic ideas. We operate on grace. And that grace has wisdom. So when Paul starts talking about marriage, If we start telling about who we respect because they're married, you wouldn't take Paul's advice in 1 Corinthians 7. And then when he says, I don't permit women, I don't think women should be speaking, we're going to be having all sorts of madness, because now we've got to start defending it from particular. It's like, So I agree with the whole part of it. I agree. We should have dating to marry. I agree, right? I agree that it's dating to marry. And see, and now, but here, beauty, Kakra, now you're failing on the point, because now his message is not for everyone, right? Neither's Ace metaphor. So why are you talking to him? So why are you cussing him? If you know that if we know Tony's message is not for everybody, why are you cussing somebody else's message? That's the point. So leave him alone. He has a different way of looking at it. That's what I'm saying to you. You open yourself up for different arguments. And I'm trying to say that as Christians, we've got to be very careful, because some of our arguments are legalistic. They're not grace-filled. There are some battles I don't need to face. Right? There's some battles I don't need to fight. I don't want to fight some of those battles. Let me give you an example. When I was talking about certain churches that were doing a certain preaching, I wasn't talking about how you conduct your service. I wasn't talking about whether you do praise and worship last or whether you do prayer first or whatever. What I spoke about was the word. If the word is out of alignment, we're going to talk about the word. That's all I can fight you on. Whether your preacher wears a bright suit or not, I don't give a heck. Whether he wears Jay-Z's, Jeezys, whatever Yeezys, I don't care. Whether he wears a t-shirt, whether he's flat, I don't care about those things. Is the word on point? Is the wisdom on point? That's what we're arguing about. And I think we have to be very careful. People have different seasons. People have different reasons. There are people on different levels. Your word is good for your audience who are willing to hear. His audience is completely different. That's why I'm not fighting Ace metaphor. Now, unless what he's saying is destructive, then we've got a different conversation. Then this part I don't agree with. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm saying again, we just got to be very careful, you know, how we deliver our message, that we don't corner ourselves, right? Got to be very careful. Where I do agree with him is this. I believe we should be dating to marry, right? I want to see people date to marry. I'm also aware that some people don't want to date to marry. They're not in my culture. They're not in my understanding. And so I understand that. I don't like it. I think it causes more destruction. And there's a way that we'll go about talking about it, right? But some of the stuff I've heard from Ace Metaphor and his tonight's conversations have actually been really good. I've been able to take a lot of wisdom from what they said. I don't agree with everything they said, but some of the stuff that they speak about on tonight's conversation, I don't believe is destructive. I think they have different, you know, they speak some different things. I'm like, ooh, I didn't even think about that, right? Because they're given advice about sometimes about being in a relationship already, or like he said, motherhood, or they're different things. They're saying different things, right? I agree. I believe we should be dating to marry. Personally, right? I believe that. I think most of us are wired in that particular way, you know, as well, you know? So I do agree with that point. Dating to marry, I do understand that point, right? I just think that maybe Tony Gaskin should have researched him a bit more better, because I think he's taken some small 60-second clips and not gone and done his actual work behind the scenes. You get what I'm saying to you? I think he needs to go and just do a bit of work. And also, again, somebody comes to me and says, I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to give you advice based on where you're at. We have to also be aware that people are going to ask for advice on where they're at. Now, if you don't believe that's what you're called to do, that's what you're not called to do. You get what I'm saying to you? That's not what you're called to do. If somebody says they don't want to get married, right? They want to do life partners. Okay. Well, I can only give you advice based on where you guys are at. I don't agree with it, but I can give you some advice on that, on how to solve an issue within the relationship. You get what I'm saying to you, right? If somebody comes to me and says they're not Christians, but they want some advice on how to date, I'm going to give you advice based on where you're at, right? If anyone has ever done coaching with me, I always say, listen, hey, I'm going to bring God into this to make you just to give it an understanding. But here's the understanding of what it is. This is what it is. You know what I mean? So I think we have to be very clear where we're giving relationship advice and we're preaching the gospel. Let's be very clear. What is your vocation and what you're called to as your ministry? We're going to be very clear, because the message of reconciliation is what we're called to do as Christians, right? And outside of that, if I'm doing banking, you're not asking me to start preaching the gospel at the bank. You don't even question me if I'm at the bank. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You don't question me if I'm at the bank. Why haven't you preached the gospel at the bank? Because my job is to bank. So there are people who are going to have their job and then they can have their ministry where they preach to people in different ways or whatever, right? So we just got to be very careful about how we deal with that aspect, because it gets convoluted real quick, and we put things on people, and I'm like, just be careful. You know what I mean? Just be careful how we deal with the situation. You know what I mean? And understand where people are coming from. Okay, that's why when you hear me give advice, I said, for me, coming from a Christian perspective, this doesn't align. But if you were to say this, I can understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? So again, I'm not saying that Tony is bad. I'm not saying that you shouldn't listen to him. I think you should. He has great advice. His advice is A1. I like his stuff. I like RC Blake. I like Matthew Hussey. I like Stephen Speaks. I like Lewis Howes. You know, I like these people because they bring different perspectives. You know what I mean? Right? I like those perspectives. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So for me personally, you know, I love that. Well, if he's here to bring Christian principles, then bring the Christian principles. But again, it's the way that you deliver your message. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Ace,
brother, hold on. Let me respond to them. See, hold on. No, let me respond to my man.
No, I got you. I want you to give a closing statement here because we're gonna wrap this one up. And Ace, if you really want to have another conversation continue, we're gonna talk outside of this. But please go ahead and give your closing statement here so we can continue the show.
What I'm saying is, my man right there just throwing a whole bunch of he don't know what he's talking about around. I'm in a committed relationship.
You sure?
I'm working, brother. I let you, every time I start to talk, you want to interrupt. I didn't interrupt you. I let you get your stuff off, bro. I even let you say you got too much bass in your voice. I let you get the whole little rah out. What I'm trying to tell you is, what my particular issue here is, when you speak, brother, you're dismissing a whole bunch of other voices just because it doesn't sound like yours. What I said in the beginning of this conversation is, I respect your voice, brother. It resonates with me because that's the way I grew up. So I've been a fan of yours for a while. I was disappointed in your clip though, because what you are saying is, I have the only way to make this work. I, and voices like me, is how this can be more successful. No one is disagreeing about two-parent households. This is something we talk about routinely on tonight's conversation. No one is disagreeing with safe sex. We talk about that routinely, brother. We talk about routinely, heal before you start dating. Find who you are before you link yourself with somebody. Identify your identity before you merge yours with another person. These are things we consistently talk about. My ending thought to you, man, is I would suggest, before name dropping, maybe you do a little bit more research. And if you don't want to do more research, then maybe don't name drop. That's all I'm simply saying to you, brother, because I felt like even through talking to you now, I feel like you even admitted that you're not even tapped in. And if you're not tapped in, why are you giving opinions about things you ain't tapped in on?
That's it.
You the one that brought my name up, brother. You the one to keep bringing up money and fame and all this different stuff when you don't even know why my purpose is this. You ain't sat and had one conversation with me, but you insinuating on the internet. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I feel like that's disrespectful man to man, brother, because I ain't never spoke ill on your name online. I respect what you're doing. Show some respect for other people that's doing similar things, just for different people, brother. That's all I'm saying. And if you want to speak like that, cool. But you got to understand people might have a problem with it. And I have a problem because I feel like you're misinformed.
Well, Ace, listen, first of all, I appreciate you for coming up here and us having conversations as men that have two different perspectives and still able to talk it out today. Listen, I'm gonna hit you up outside of this conversation, but thank you so much for coming up on the platform. Your first time on Harley Initiated. Thank you very much, brother. Okay.
Appreciate you, Ace.
All right, this on peace.
Yes, sir. So, man, TG, how you feeling right now, man, after that conversation? Because I know you haven't spoke to Ace in a very long time.
I've never spoke to Ace.
Never?
He emailed me. I've never spoke to him. But because he said something. He said, I respect you, brother. I respect what you stand on. I don't respect what he stands on. And that's what I'm telling him. Like I said, I respect RC Blake's. I respect what I respect, but I don't respect what he stands on, because what he's saying to me is that he's more focused on telling every story and having all of these voices. But what I know from panels, I've been doing events, producing events myself since 2012.
Yeah.
So over 10 years, what I know from panels is that the audience typically leaves more confused than they came. Because if you ask 10 different people their opinion, you're going to get 10 different opinions. So what we have to do as leaders is we got to find our voice, and then we have to use our voice and we speak our message. So he's saying, do a deep dive. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the kiddie pool. If I see all of these clips and they all are very shallow and surface level, why am I going to give an hour of my life to something that already tells me makes no sense for the grand scheme of things? So it's not about me dismissing voices. It's just that not everybody should be speaking. So, and that's just a fact of the matter. Why do you think we got one speaker of the house and not 50? Not every voice should be speaking on things that affect people's livelihood, things that people are losing their life over, things that kids are being bullied and kids are growing up without a parent because of toxic relationship insight. And so the thing about it is if you're going to have a conversation, you have to thoroughly balance the conversation. And so one of the guys who hit me up, who went on the conversation, was Anthony O'Neill. And Anthony is a single man. So when he hit me up, I'm like, well, why are you bringing Anthony O'Neill? Anthony's single, and it seemed like the other people single. So I haven't heard of like somebody of notoriety and somebody who is proven, who has an audience, who their audience has said, hey, I trust you. And that's why the 1,000, the 100,000, or the million of us are supporting you because I trust you. I haven't seen nobody like that go on there. And so that's my point is, if you're in the space and you're dealing with relationships.
So then why not go on there? Do you get what I'm saying to you? Then why not go on there, Tony? You hasn't had anybody on there. He reaches out to you, and then you say, no, I'm not going to go on there. So what you want to do? You say you just said he hasn't got anybody reputable to go on that space. And then when he asks you to go on there, you don't go on there. How is it going to change? Right? This is not like this is not a cult. This is, if it's a cult, then yeah, if someone's got a cult or whatever, then going into that space, no matter what you preach, the people are not going to change. That's completely different. But right, what are you saying right now? Anthony Neal's a single person. He calls you to come and speak. Right? He calls you to come and speak. And then he says, come on the platform and speak. Why not go? Why not go? Why not go? Why not be the other voice? Why not be the other voice? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. Why not go and be the other voice? If they're giving you the opportunity to come there and speak and spread that message that's so well that you've got, that is so powerful, and that space is curated for relationship talks, whether they're single or not, you can contribute. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You know what I mean? So and I know he's been on there because I reviewed his conversation on there, right? So I'm just saying that I'm just going by what he said. And the reason why it's going to come off sneak dissing is because, and this is why when I do videos, right, I sit down with the video and I play it to you guys and I break down and say, this point I agree, don't agree with this point. There's a reason why I do that way. Because when I do it that way, I'm not just talking. You can now see what I'm seeing. And I'm saying, I don't align with this particular point. I want you to see it. There's a whole reason why I bring that aspect of video so you can see it for yourself. Then we can agree or disagree or whatever in that moment. And that's the truth, Mush. You know what I mean? That's the truth, Mush. I'm single. You know what I mean? I'm single. So, and that's what I'm trying to say, that people are gonna. I remember when I remember when I was leading a youth ministry. Somebody said to me, "How can you lead a youth ministry? You need to be grown." I was like, I love the Lord, and I love Jesus, and the Lord has asked me to be here, so I'm just doing what I believe I'm called to do. You're called to do so. You're called to do something. You know what I mean? But the reality, if we go by what Tony's saying, I don't have no validity at all. Right? If we talk in what he's saying, I have no validity at all. Because I shouldn't be talking about anything relationship. Right? I shouldn't have no say at all, because I've not been in a relationship the last 3 years. I've been in 3 long-term relationships, but I haven't been I haven't been married. Do you know what I'm saying? I haven't been married. Right? I haven't been engaged. Or, I mean, it's like, that's a little bit of a touchy subject, but you know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? So again, I'll be aware of that. Like, we gotta be very careful. I'm gonna say, and then you will end up having cognitive dissonance, because you're like, well, I've had some wisdom from this guy, but I can't follow him anymore because he's no longer. Now I know he's not married, and Tony Gaskin has told us that people who are not married, he doesn't respect. I can't follow him. That's not how it works. You get what I'm saying to you? That's not how it works. Yeah, I'm not passing myself as a relationship guru, but everything I do is about relationships. So somebody could say easily, you're a relationship guru or whatever, or you're a relationship person, relationship, you know what I mean? Right? Easily. People ask me to coach them. Married people, single people, divorced people. They all ask me, right? And I always tell you guys, hey, I never studied psychology. Okay. All right. I never studied psychology. I actually failed psychology. Okay. All right. I actually failed psychology, but a lot of my work is through psychology. I have many people that come on the platform who say they're a therapist or a counselor, and they're like, we agree with your point. Some will say they don't agree with it, right? Someone say they agree with the point. Like, well, okay, he uses a lot of psychology. Raw, like he's talking some truth. And I'll be like, hey, I'm just using what I believe that God has called me to do, to analyze certain things, break it down, right? I'm not a therapist. So you don't come to me as a therapist. You should have a therapist. I don't replace your therapist. You understand what I'm saying to you? You will never hear me say, I'm the replacement for your therapist. I will tell you, get a therapist. I can coach you in certain things, but get your ass a therapist. You get what I'm saying to you? Right? You see what I'm saying? So that's what's important. You know? Does it prove the point? See, and so good girl, gone rich. You've been here for a little while. Why are you here? You've known this about me for a little while. It's double-minded that you're even here. You've actually been following my content for a little while. It's double-minded that you're actually here. Why are you here listening to me? You want to get married? Why are you here? Ask. Do you see what's going to happen? You're going to find yourself in a particular space where you're going to have a double-minded perspective. Why are you here? Because if you want to get married, I'm single. What am I doing to help you get married? I'm single. How can I teach you anything? This is what you're saying you believe, right? If that's what you believe, why are you here? Take your bags, packets, go elsewhere. But the reality of the situation is that's not how life works. We tap into people that have wisdom in that space. So when people have wisdom, you take what you can from them, what you can learn from them, and you move on. I'm not sensitive at all. I just want you to see that you're double-minded. I don't think you understood what I was saying to you. You don't understand that if you're still here, you might want to pack your bags. So I'm not going to help you. And I'm trying to prove your point by using your point against you. That's how we do things here, right? So if you don't realize, okay, that this is not, I'm not married, then you should realize that this shouldn't be your channel anymore. You should go where someone else is married. That's the argument I'm using against you. So I'm saying that I don't tap into people just because they're married or they're single. There are people that are married and bitter and will give you bad advice. There are people that are single and give you great advice. It's about us being able to discern and take into account what word, what word we are actually tapping into. You know what I'm saying to you, right? Yeah. So that's what we're kind of saying in that aspect. You know what I'm saying? And I have specifically mentioned Good Girl Gone Rich because I've seen you a few times here. You enjoy the content. It's okay. You can enjoy the content. And that's what I'm trying to say to you, because what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself in a position. There ain't no point. You enjoy the content. You love being here. Come on. You love being here. You know what I'm saying? You love being here. You love enjoying yourself being here. Okay. All right. It's okay to enjoy the content. And that's what I'm trying to say to you. You have to discern. That's all. You have to discern. All right. So I'm not going to brush everybody on this saying tar. I did a video the other day. I did a video the other day between B. Simone. I did a video between B. Simone and Megan Ashley. That video has now almost 90K views. But the amount of people that have said, God bless you for this message. Let me not say God bless you. That's the wrong word. But let me just say they've said, I really love this message, right? Because we're talking about friendships and stuff like this, right? But the psychology, it wasn't a Christian who produced the psychology. It's a non-believer. Right? We have to be very careful what we start doing. It was a non-believer that formulated the psychology that was helping. That video has 90K, but the comments I think it's almost like 500 comments. And every single woman, and the majority of women, by the way, again, majority of women in there are literally saying, listen, you don't, Good Girl Gone Rich, you don't love me. I don't like when people do that when they say they love you and they know what they're doing. You know what you're doing. Don't drop that I love you in there. When Christians do that, I really find that frustrating because you know exactly what you're doing. Don't do that. But there's almost 500 comments in that video, and people are saying how great it is, but the wisdom is not even mine. And the wisdom is actually psychology. By the grace of God, God has given somebody who's not even a Christian the idea to understand how the mind works. And that person, right, that person has given wisdom about attachment styles, which I have taken and implemented into a video. You know what I'm saying to you? So the reality of the situation is there are people who are not Christian who give wisdom. That person doesn't have to be married, or not in a marriage, whatever, etc., etc. But they can give you wisdom. And so that's why I'm saying to you, be very careful. You need to discern. Don't follow someone because they're married, or because they're single, or because they're good looking. Follow them because they have wisdom. That should be our measuring rod. And of course, within that spectrum, some people are going to follow people that are particularly Christian. Some people are going to be following people that are not Christian because they're not Christians. You know what I mean? But whatever it is there wisdom in what they're kind of saying? That's the key point, right? That video that's blown up is because in reality, that person has some wisdom. You know what I mean? Okay. So I just want to make you understand that point. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's go.
The relationships, then you need to have the people who done been in the trenches, because if I'm in there and somebody saying they doing this, they doing that, I'm gonna balance the conversation. I'm gonna let Buddy say what he's saying, but then I'm gonna say, listen, this is what you got to think about over here. You got to think about sexually transmitted diseases. You got to think about spiritually transmitted diseases, these soul ties. You got to think about the person that you sleep with. You could be the straw that broke the camel's back, and this person could come and take your life. That's what I'm gonna balance it like that, and that's what I am against. I'm against the one-sided conversations that don't have another side that is bringing clarity. Whereas if you're having a one-sided conversation and this side has proven track record, this side has success, this side has stability. So where I'm speaking, he said, I'm only caring about my voice. This isn't my voice. I'm carrying a message of God. I'm carrying a message of family. This isn't something, I was in the streets. I was a womanizer. That's not my voice. I'm doing what I have to do. This ain't about me. It's about the message. And so that's the thing. And that's what I feel like people who, when your spirit is in the right place, you understand it. But one thing I was just reading is that when somebody say they respect me, I don't need anybody to respect. All I want to hear is God say, well done, my good and faithful servant. I don't care about a man or a woman's respect or disrespect. I'm going to carry my message regardless. But one thing I just saw when I was reading my word, it said even demons know the name of God. That when Jesus showed up, they was like, whoa, what you doing here, Jesus? Hey, allow us to go into the swine. He said, all right, just get out them people. They went into the swine, ran the swine off the hill. So I expect to be known because what I'm speaking on, it has proven results. It's what the people need. And if you can, in your right mind, argue against monogamy, argue against stability, argue against faithfulness and marriage, and say, hey, I know that's good and all, but I'm going to provide a platform for this here debauchery and confusion. That don't make sense to me. And me, I just call a spade a spade. And so I do not respect what Ace is doing if he's not going to balance it with thorough people who have proven themselves over the test of time and still living right and doing the right thing. I don't respect it. And so that's one thing I know, not to say that I'm the only person you're supposed to call, but I ain't seen RC Blaze up there. And I have not been called to be up there in a formal way. And the thing about it is, I don't even want to go.
So then what are you talking about? That's the point. We're double speaking. What's the point of giving us this great advice? Listen, by the way, again, he made some great points. There's no point talking about, I don't particularly agree with any perspective that's beyond monogamy. I only agree with monogamy, right? I only agree with monogamy, right? But I also understand that some people don't think the way I do. Now, I'll critique what I see in another perspective, but I don't agree with that. And I'll still give advice. If someone asks me, and they're from a polyamorous relationship, and they ask me for advice about how to love their partner, first of all, I'm not even qualified because really and truly, I've never been in a polyamorous relationship. But if I talk about how to love somebody, I can tell you I can give you some principles, I can give you some advice, whatever, right? So that's not a problem at all. You get what I'm saying to you? That's not a problem at all, right? I'm open to able to help people because I believe my job was to call to help people. You get what I'm saying to you, right? And part of this is my job, right? And maybe because I see it differently. This is my job, YouTube. It's a part of the purpose, but I can preach. I can teach the word too. So this is not my only vehicle of reaching people. When I want to deliver the word, I could preach the word. Do you get what I'm saying to you? I could preach the word. I could teach the word. So I guess maybe for me personally, and maybe I'm looking at it from my perspective and not having a more understanding of maybe where he's coming from, because I can separate the two because this becomes part of my job. You get what I'm saying to you? This becomes part of my job. So I can have my ministry and preach and teach and deliver the word to people literally, you know what I mean? So maybe I'm thinking it in that way, and maybe I'm putting that on everybody else that they can do the exact same thing, you know what I mean? And maybe he's coming from a perspective where he's combining the two so together that there is no separation. But for me, there's a separation because I can do my job, which is my day-to-day job, and I can also have the purpose within that slightly, and also then I can do preaching and teaching, you know what I mean? Which I believe I have a gift for as well. So I just see that maybe I'm being a bit more closed-minded and saying I'm seeing it from my perspective of being everyone can separate the two, and maybe not everyone can separate the two. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that aspect, you know what I mean? So, you know, I personally understand what he's saying, but if they call you, why not go? See, people that don't want to hear your message are not calling you. Ace Metaphors called you. They want you to go, right? There are other platforms that are going to call you. Go. If Lewis Howes calls you, go. Like, if someone calls me, okay? If someone calls me and says, Coach, I want you to go, I want you to come on our platform. We believe, you know, we don't necessarily believe in monogamy. I'm like, well, can I preach my message? I just want to be clear. Can I preach my message that I believe in monogamy and I believe that we should be in loving relationships? Yes or no? If you tell me no, then that's a different story. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So for me personally, if unless you told me I can't preach my message, then I won't go. Of course, I won't go because you told me no, I can't preach my message. Now that's a different story. But Ace Metaphor has called you and said, bro, come on the platform. And then you cussing them saying, no, your platform is not great, but then don't want to go and actually preach your message. Now, unless he's told you you can't preach your message and you can't talk. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? And you can politely, and you know, we got to learn also how to be aware that we can politely disagree, you know, and maybe that's maybe just me. Maybe that's the debate. The debater in me makes it easier for me to see how I can go into those spaces, because for me, I don't mind a debate. So for me personally, that's why maybe I can see it in a different way where I'm okay going into spaces like that, because maybe that's what I'm being called to do, right? But you see how I'm having nuance and understanding that maybe I'm called to that space and I can do different things to you. That's how I need you to be open as well, Tony, to see things that you may not see it from your perspective. Someone else may see it differently. You're not the only perspective. I then went to drink my drink. I went to drink my drink and the bottle was closed. You know what I'm saying to you?
Because I don't believe in throwing pearls to swine, meaning I don't believe in having a conversation if everybody in the room has been curated and committed to, say, being faithful to one woman and building love on principle is outdated. Like, I'm not going to go and sit and waste my time to talk to people who are committed to casual hookups and committed to all this craziness. That's a waste of my time. I want to go where people are saying, hey, I've done it this way. I've done the one night stands. I've done the threesomes. I've done the porn. I've done the strip clubs, and it left me broken and hurting. Now I'm looking for something different, a solution. And that's what I'm trying to bring. And it's not about me. It's not about my voice. It's not about the money. It's not about any of that. It's about us as a people, us as a society, and us doing what is uncomfortable. Us, like he said, he's in a committed relationship. Well, if you're providing a conversation on love and relationships and you're in a committed relationship, then show that off. Show that woman off. Let's see that this is what healthy dating looks like. This is what commitment looks like. Let's see that. That's all I'm saying is let's exemplify.
I can tell you overly passionate about what you're speaking about, which is excellent. And, you know, I'm glad we brought Ace on for y'all to have a conversation. I didn't think it would go the way it went.
I mean, listen, they did what I did, which is they gonna realize they made a mistake doing it. I did the same mistake, and I'm not gonna be hard on hardly initiate because I understand I made the same mistake, right? When I had Kayla and I brought on Mike, in my head I'm thinking to myself, they can both handle themselves, but it actually derails the conversation. And so unfortunately, I mean, they got back on track because it's a 4-hour conversation. But you know, I understand also how, you know, for their, I get why in their head they're probably not thinking about money. They're just thinking about, let's put on a great show. And sometimes you just want to just be on a great show, you know. And that's Jay. Thank you. Oh! Jay, thank you for reminding me. I said it earlier on, but it reminded me. This is what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. A show that does not agree and align with Christian principles at all. Yeah? At all. Do you get what I'm saying to you? That's what I'm trying to say to you. Like, if you talk wickedest, you gotta be very careful how you talk about it. Just be nuanced about it. You know, you gotta be careful because it can go left real quick. You know what I mean? I by the way, I love Stefan too. I like a lot of people, so don't worry. But you gotta be very careful. That show, there was nothing Christian about that show. There were people who had polyamorous relationships, in fact, open marriage relationships. People that weren't even trying to get married. That's why I was like, wait, hold on a minute. That's why I said, like, chill, Tony, chill. The reality of the situation is, you are talking about Ace Metaphor and what he does, but you went on a whole TV show, national television show, which all the couples are not really on point like that. You get what I'm saying to you? Now, I'm not saying that they weren't trying to push towards marriage. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the first season of that show had nothing in alignment with our faith. Nothing. And we know what these shows are. These shows oftentimes are devilish. If he wants to call spirits out, my friend, going on that show would have been one of those things to call out. But you know what? I'm not mad about it because I think he brought so much wisdom to that show, and he tried to help the couple. He tried to help the couple out, right? And unfortunately, some of the couples just weren't listening and adhering to his advice, right? So not everyone on that show was Christian and wanting to have a Christian marriage. But you went on that show and you showed the light of God in that situation with your wisdom. You see, one thing I learned, and maybe this is why, for me personally, I like it this way. But I know not everybody is Daniel, not everybody's David, not everybody's Paul, not everyone is Peter. We all have our different roles. One of the things that I like, and that's why I liked what Tony did on Couples Retreat, right? On Couples Retreat, you can't necessarily, it's a TV show, so you can't necessarily talk about Jesus anonymously. You know, you can't just start preaching because the TV don't want that. So what do you have to do? You become like Daniel, right? You become like Daniel. And like Daniel, what you do is you let your excellence speak and let that be the trigger point for them, right? And so in the story of Daniel, his excellence speaks to the point where they pull him out and that, Daniel, we're going to have to make you, you know, we have to make you a chief here because that excellence that you got is crazy, right? And that wisdom should be one that's speaking for you, because when you go into certain arenas, you can't talk Jesus necessarily. One of the things I learned, and when I worked in banking, right, and this is why I'm saying about the understanding something. I worked in banking for a very long time. Okay, all right. When I was in banking, I used to fully preach, and I mean, I would preach. People come into the bank. And I'll give them money. I'll be like, and if I got the opportunity of a conversation, we'll be talking. I'll be like, but do you know Jesus? You know, and boom, 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 boom. One day, my manager, who's Catholic at the time, pulled me into the office. Now, I don't agree with this still, but I had to start learning, right? Pulled me into the office. Pulled me into the office. Oh, good girl gone rich. Don't go. Good girl gone rich. You said I was triggered. Why are you going? I just said to you that use your own argument against yourself. That's what I was saying. I was just telling you that, you know what, if you're gonna be saying about me, I was just gonna say that, you know, you shouldn't be following me because I'm not married. That's what I was saying. Good girl gone bad. You don't have to leave. I don't want you to leave. Come back. You know what I mean? But if you have to go, I understand. So obviously, at the same measure, when I was working in the bank, I was always preaching. I'm sorry, I'm a bit petty. I can't lie to you. That's part of my spirit I need to work on, guys. I do need to work on that part as a Christian. I'm very petty at points. Can't lie to you. I was preaching at the time. Preaching at the time in the thing, and then my boss called me in, said, "Coach, you're great at what you do, right? But you need to stop preaching." I said, "What do you mean? Have I had any complaints?" He said, "No, I haven't had any complaints. Okay, but I need you to stop trying to influence people." In my head, I said, "No, this is the devil. It's the devil working in here that is trying to tell me to stop preaching to these people at this point, right? It's the devil." I was like, "No, I'm gonna keep on preaching." Right, kept on preaching. I only had one incident ever where I kind of pushed him maybe a little bit too far. The guy didn't complain. He just said, "Listen, the guy's great at his job. You know what? We had a conversation. It just kind of triggered me a little bit." So he mentioned it. So my boss came to me, and now she has ammunition. She was like, "Well, look, you haven't had a complaint, but he just said you was a little bit too much." Right? I was like, man. I went to speak to a friend, and it was like, "Yo, Coach, you're zealous. We love it. Yeah, as a Christian, you are on fire. We love it. But what you have to realize is you're at work. It's not a Christian business. It's work." Right? So I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" He said, "Listen, you have to understand you're behind enemy lines. You don't infiltrate the same way. You're coming in like a bulldozer, and you're forgetting that you're coming behind enemy lines. You need to find another way. Wisdom." I said, "But why? We've been called to preach. We've been called to tell people about Jesus. We've been called to tell people about the gospel." He said, "Yeah, but you're at work. You have to understand where you are." Right? So I took it back. I took it on. I didn't agree with him at first. I went and sat down. Okay. All right. I went and sat down, and I sat with him, and I said, "Okay, but why should I change? Why should I change? Why should I change from my way to do this way? Because the gospel is going to be offensive, right? The gospel is always going to be offensive, so they're going to be offended anyway." And I sat there, and I was like, "Okay, Lord, give me wisdom. And if this is what if I should change my method, let me know." Right? And I don't know what happened. I'll just be honest with you. Sometimes when I pray these prayers, I don't know what happens. It just drops in your spirit. I went into work maybe a few weeks later, and what you see now is actually how I started talking about it. I started talking about it. I was talking to somebody, and I didn't necessarily mention Jesus per se. They were talking about a situation, and I kind of solved the situation. And when I solved the situation, they were asking for relationship advice. That was it. They were asking for relationship advice. And I solved their problem by giving them an answer. And they said, "How did you get to that conclusion?" I said, "Hey, this big man upstairs, can't lie, choose Jesus." Right? So, damn, okay, cool. Now, I don't know if he gave his life to Jesus. I don't know if he gave his life to Jesus. Okay? I don't know if he gave his life to Jesus. But all I could say to him was, "Hey, it's not me. It's Jesus." So whenever I was giving people advice and they would say, "Oh, that's wise." I had one couple come in. I think I've told you so before. I had a couple come in. They came in separate. One came in, but the man came in first and the woman came in after. I didn't realize I was talking to them both, that they were a couple together. I didn't realize. Okay. I wasn't aware. I gave them just some advice, psychology-wise. I was like, "Yo, your temperament is this. Her temperament is this. That's why you're kind of banging. You need to work it out." He went back home, took what I said. Okay. He took what I said, went back to his wife, and he came back the next day. He said, "Bro, I don't know what you did, but bro, it worked." I said, "Hey, it's not me." Big man upstairs. After that happened 1 or 2 times, I started realizing, see, I've been thinking in my head that I got to preach the gospel in this place because that's the only way the light's going to shine. And then I started reading Daniel. I remember Daniel, and I went to read it again because Daniel was one of the second or third book I ever read in the Bible. I went to read Daniel, and I read it, and I said, hold on a minute. Daniel. Daniel was excellent. Now, let me be honest with you. I was not excellent. In my workplace, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't excellent. I was a maverick. So you call me for specific things like life insurance, I was killing it. Yeah. Other things I didn't believe in, I found it hard to sell. When it came to de-escalating arguments, they would call me because I like to de-escalate arguments. I'm like, chill. I'm like, talk to the person. Let's calm it down. They called me for that. I had special gifts. Some other areas, I was a bit tacky. I can't lie to you. I wasn't as great. I wasn't concentrating. I wasn't as great at those things, but I had special gifts. They would call me specifically for those things, right? So I started realizing, no, the time and the season for preaching like that right now at the workplace, I can't do it. I need to be wise. And then a scripture came to me: be as wise as the serpent, but gentle as the dove. I must understand where I am and what season I am and what environment I'm in. You know? So for me personally, I started realizing I have to be aware that when I go to certain environments, I may not be able to mention the name of the Lord, but that's not important. That's not the thing. That's not the save. The saving is the Holy Spirit that's working through me. So don't worry about that, coach. I'm like, I have to mention Jesus. I have to mention him, but you don't have to. Why? Because in the book of Esther, we never heard the name God mentioned. Yet God is in everything that's happening. Why? Because those who are serving him, he's making things work for their good. So if I really am carrying him, the wisdom that I'm carrying, then I started going, okay, let me start lodging psychology with the word of God, because I can see how they both come together. I can see it. That's my gift. So that is what I'm saying in that moment, right? That's my gift. That's my personal gift. That's not anyone else's. That's what my gift is. I can link psychology with the word of God and relationships. Then I knew what to do. Okay, now I'm going to start being shrewd about it. And I'm going to start making sure that, okay, I'm going to infect you with little seeds. I'll tell you a little story here, a little story there, right? The other day I was thinking about King David, right? I was thinking about King David. I said, King David is a beautiful story, because when you start telling the story about King David, there's so many of us on King David. I identify with King David because the daddy issues. And I see how the daddy issues plays into the situation. That's what I was expecting from Tony. I was expecting Tony to tell him, listen, brother, if you want to, and then infect him. But that's what my gift is. It's not his gift. You know what I'm saying to you? So, again, I want to be nuanced and balanced and to say, like, I felt like there's another way of going about it to make understanding, because personally in that space, there are different ways of going about it. You know what I mean? So that's what I was trying to say. Now, I want to show you something. I had some notes on that thing, and I've gone about an hour and a half. So I meant to go to town as well. Frick, I meant to go and get my Nike Dunks, and I haven't gone to go and get it. I need to go and get ready to go and get it. Okay, let me. I didn't realize it was going to be this long. Knowing me, I should have known. Okay, cool. Let me listen to. I want you to listen to this, and this is why I have a problem with Tony Gaskins. I just need him to chill. Okay. All right. I just want him to chill with it a little bit. Listen to this. Just listen to this, and you'll see why I said I want him to chill a little bit. Okay. Hopefully I got the right clip as well. Okay. Yeah. No. Sorry. Here we go. I've gone too far back. Okay. Here we go. All right. Cool.
Necessarily watch his content, but he's married and he shows his wife. That doesn't mean everything.
Okay. Yes, brother. But look, I'm gonna get to some of these actual questions, and I got a good one on here. So let me see where this one's at. So Teresa, shout out to Teresa. She says, aside from yourself, TG, do you have recommendations of any positive influences to check out, and how to truly vet whether or not a relationship advice giver is worth listening to?
The only one I see right now is the closest thing to it is RC Blake's. That's the only one that I've seen that. And I don't necessarily watch his content, but he's married and he shows his wife. That doesn't mean everything. That's not foolproof, but that's closest to it. That's out there doing. I really, nobody else comes to mind. And even with RC, he is still like, he started after me and he's older than me. And when he got started, I didn't necessarily care for his stuff because a lot of the topics were like my same titles. So I didn't know if he was emulating. And my dad wrote a book called 8 Mistakes Women Make in Relationships. And he had a video that was like 8 mistakes or 10 mistakes women make in relationships. So I was trying to see like, okay, is he emulating? But the women seem to say he's been solid. He's been consistent.
Ladies like him.
They like him.
Yeah.
And then what I see from him, because he's not afraid to show his wife and because he's not afraid to talk about marriage and really represent it, that's the closest thing to it. But outside of that, and to be honest with you, it's like, it shouldn't be a whole list, a bunch of names, because when you're doing something and you're doing it the right way, it's going to take time. But I would never recommend listening to somebody who does not have even perceivably what you want. And even then, it's still, you only could believe half of what you see, because we could be married and be showing that, and it could be all for clicks and likes and for money. But I don't see that with RC. What I do see with him that he will learn over time is brand alignment.
Okay.
So that's what I learned, is you can't align your brand with people who are sacrilegious and people who are not trying to change and people who, are not, who just playing with the name of God. And so I feel like once he realized that everybody can't be stamped, You know
what? We're gonna talk about that in a minute.
I don't know if you heard it, but if you caught it, you caught it. Right? I don't know if you heard it, what he said, but if you caught it, you caught it. I'm gonna play another clip. I'm not gonna dissect it yet. I'm gonna play another clip. Before I do that, right? I want to play another clip before, because I'll explain what was heard. So let me just play this clip, because I think this way he talks about Stephen Speaks.
Actually, was struggling with when we were going about deciding what the platform was about. It's like, we can't talk like this and do these things, right, without actually being the people. And now part of our job is to become the people that we praise and that we celebrate more and more every day.
Right.
So, but my question for you, especially with the Derrick Jaxn situation, what's the level of accountability and transparency that you should have when you give another? Like, should he have communicating, hey, I'm giving you this counsel, but I've got this craziness going on, behind the scenes with my wife, or kind of like, what's the line?
100%. He should have been open. And so if me and my wife going through in my videos, I will say it. Like, if I'm doing a video, I may be talking about business, I may be talking about something else, but I will say, hey, no one is exempt from spiritual warfare in your relationship.
Yeah.
I said, me and my wife still to this day have to grow, have to work through things, have to struggle through. We still have disagreements. We still have big issues that we have to overcome. If we're going through something, I'll say that to let people know I'm human just like you. And so we have to be transparent. I always say the best parent is transparent. Well, the best teacher is going to share their mistakes. The best teacher is going to come out and not come out on a white horse with armor on, but come out wounded and say, hey, this scar means this, this scar means this, and to share that, but also say, this is where I'm speaking from, and this is the extent of my understanding and my knowledge. Not, I'm a guru, I'm an expert. I've never used either of those words. Other people may say that towards me, but I don't use those words intentionally. So it angers me when I see somebody who has not been in the trenches as long as I have, who do not put in the work that I put in, and they call themselves an expert, because people will take that seriously.
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, because you call yourself an expert, that means you know the ins and outs, you know how to make a perfect relationship, and they listen to them and they will hang on to their every word. And that's the issue. So you have to be transparent. And even like, it's a lot of guys out there. Stephen, when somebody told me about
Stephon Speaks?
Yeah.
Okay.
When somebody mentioned to him, I probably was maybe 5-7 years into what I do. Somebody mentioned him. The first time I Googled him, a mugshot came up. And I can't remember if it was for domestic violence, but a mugshot came up. Yeah, he had on a white t-shirt. And
Wow.
when I went back to look later, it was gone. Because you could get it sealed and expunged or what have you.
Wow.
It was gone. So I was like, okay, well, maybe he's speaking. Maybe he made these mistakes. He heard my story that I used to be a womanizer and all of this, and he said he's gonna make a change.
Wow.
But then what he started doing is doing all of the marketing, to where if you search my book on Amazon, he paying for sponsored promo to where his book coming up under mine.
Wow.
And then he doing all of the algorithm. He doing all of this stuff. And then I seen an interview. He was with this young lady, and she was kind of immature. And he was like, I used to be abstinent, but I tried that.
Now, if you didn't hear it, but those who heard it, heard it. If you heard it, you heard it. Right? When I said about the only thing I have a problem with Tony is the arrogance, that's what I'm talking about. Right? Two things, RC Blake and Stephen Speaks. Right? RC Blake, he said that he wasn't sure if RC Blake was emulating him because he did 8 or 10 points of a thinking about a woman or whatever, and he had written a book about 8 points. How you get to a point where you think that someone's trying to emulate you because you are ahead, right? You think that potentially and he didn't have to mention it. By the way, nobody asked him. He did not have to mention that he felt like RC Blake's copied him. He didn't have to mention that. Why did you mention it? Right? There's no need to mention that. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, I think RC Blake's is pretty cool. I haven't even watched many of his content, but the points that some of the things that I've seen, it seems pretty solid. But why does he have to mention that he feels that RC Blake's may have copied him on a video? That's what I was saying about the arrogance. I just need him to be aware of that. He's got a blind spot, like I've got a blind spot. My own intellect, my own ego. I've got my own blind spot, right? We all got our own, so I got my own. Okay. And then when he talks about obviously Stephen Speaks, there's another plot where he says obviously he doesn't even think Stephen Speaks is. Obviously he's not aware that Stephen Speaks was divorced, but he goes and say about Stephen Speaks, he feels like he's paying for promotion so he can put his book right underneath his. Really? 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 SSJ, you must have just come in. We ain't never been messy around here. I have evidence. I played the video. So you're going to have to skip that. You need to go rewind. You know what I mean? So again, I'm looking at it. And I'm going, why would you think that why would you not think that the person is having their own? Look, let me be honest with you. Sometimes people have the same idea you do. Sometimes people have the same idea you do. People can have the same ideas you do, right? People can have similar ideas to what you do. It's like me saying I do panels and someone else does panels. And I go, well, I mean, I feel like people just, people just copy me and just do up their own panels. What? And I remember I had and I'm not trying to start anything, but I remember Kamisha Reviews was telling me that she felt like I copied her about the panel situation. I was like, nah, I got it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? Right? And so in reality, in a situation, why is your premise that you think that somebody copied you? Why does that need to be mentioned? I don't get it. Right? I don't get it. This is why I'm trying to say chill. Right? Let's chill. Right? Stating that someone is trying to emulate you doesn't sound good. Emulating never comes off as a positive when you say it in that particular context, in that particular way. Right? So it sounds arrogant when you put it that way. And when you add that to the fact that, obviously I've already said earlier on that it feels like he's saying almost like he's the only one, that becomes an issue. Right? So we just got to be really careful. Right? Got to be very, 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 very careful. Even a Stephen Speaks situation where he says, obviously, mugshot came up and then he feels like, Stephen Speaks might have heard him and then changed his, but how would you know? How would you know? Do you know my first introduction into relationship stuff was Matthew Hussey? I used to watch Matthew Hussey I used to watch his stuff all the time. Man, I used to watch Matthew Hussey. I loved his content. Now I don't watch it as much because I haven't got as much, I do my own thing now. But I used to watch Matthew Hussey all the time. Like he'd come with some points. He'd be coming with some points. So you don't have to say that. You get what I'm saying to you? If somebody comes out and says, I'm emulating you, then by all means. But if you say it, it does sound arrogant. Right? And just because you're on a platform, people are doing stuff off the platform. If they now come onto the platform, you could easily be like, well, they copy it. No, they had their own thing before this. Before I was doing YouTube, I was writing a blog. Right? Talking about relationship stuff. So, like, we have to be very careful. And that's what I'm trying to say about the Tony situation. I don't want him to get to a place where you're starting to roll down a hill of arrogance, because as he knows, that's the first tripping sign. It's like, I just need you to chill a little bit, bro. Like, we're all trying to be here, trying to do our thing. You get me? Respect people, be humble. Yeah. Respect people, be humble. You know what I'm saying? So that's all we're kind of saying. Someone said he's already there. I believe he'll come back. I think he'll get it. I think he'll get it. Someone will tell him, and I think he get it. I believe in that he'll get it and just realize, okay, wait, I might have been doing a little bit too much. Let me come back a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't mind him name dropping. I get it. I'm just saying that it's the way you deliver the message, you know. I wanted to be very careful about the way you're doing it. We all have our moments. So that's what I'm saying. Again, I'm not cussing him. I'm not saying anything bad about it. Let's say like he's bad. I think we should still listen to him. He has great points, you know. He has great points. So yeah. And his message is true. His message is not a false one. It's a true one. I just wanted to be very aware. You know, and let me tell you honestly, we all are competitive here. Don't get it twisted. We are competitive. Christian or not Christian, you're competitive, right? Everyone's competitive, but we just gotta be very careful. Like, getting into a mindset that people are just copying you and you're mentioning it out loud, and it's like, yo, you gotta be very careful. You know, you gotta be very careful. You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying to you? Like, unless someone has copied something specific, like for instance, I do a thing called human verification. If you then go and your interview, you say human verification, then that's definite because you've taken exactly what I've said. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So then that's definite. The person's copying you, whatever. But just gotta be, careful about that as well, right? So I'm just saying, just be aware of that. And I just want Tony to see that. I don't think I have any more clips because I think it was.
You typically get favor in that regard to have men who are invested in your future, but most of our young men don't have that.
You're right.
And that's unfortunate.
And you know what? That's exactly why when young men come to me and they have the right spirit, meaning that they want to grow, they want to learn, I take them up under my wing and I let them travel with me. I let them shadow me. I took R.S. Rogers, who is a 35-year-old virgin. I took him to Nairobi, Kenya with me because we met and I say he was younger than me. And Caleb Curl, any guy, Pierre Harris, these guys that reached out to me. I went to speak to Baylor basketball. This is a Power 5. You know, we just won a national championship not long ago.
Yeah, that's big.
I took Caleb out there. I took Pierre out there. Anybody who want to shadow me, I let them shadow me. And I take them on and I let them see that what I'm talking on the online is real behind the scenes.
That's fair.
And one of them can come up here and say, Tony actually does not curse in real life. He actually does not cheat on his wife in real life. He actually does not be messing with women and dealing with women in no kind of way in real life. And so I do that so that they can see. But then at the same time, it's things that when you're doing business and you're working with focus and you're working with clarity, they see that I bought my dad a Maserati and then I bought him a Bentley. They see that and they got a dad and they're like, man, I want to get my dad a Bentley one day. But I tell them this comes from sacrifice, meaning spiritual. This comes from clarity. This comes from focus. This comes from dedication. This comes from being obedient. This comes from putting in the work and removing the distractions. So I want everybody to ask yourself and really be literal about this. What benefit do we gain from fornication? What benefit do we gain from having multiple sexual partners?
That's fair.
What benefit do we gain from creating more and more single parent homes?
That's fair.
What benefit do we gain? Like when you look at what benefit do we gain from the strip club? What benefit do we gain from masturbation, from pornography? Like really ask yourself, what is the benefit other than eating pleasure?
Yeah, hedonistic.
And creating more confusion in our life.
I agree.
But when you ask yourself, what benefit do I gain from abstinence, where I have discipline and self-control and self-love? What do I gain from a healthy and whole relationship where we are faithful and loving? What do I benefit from a happy and healthy marriage, raising children in that environment? See, when we really look at it and we get out our feelings and we get out what the world is saying and we just compare these apples to these oranges, we will see what makes sense. And that's what we're not doing. We're not literally just using common sense of what is your process and what are your results. And if you're not getting the results that you want, then you have to evaluate what you're doing. So what does a man benefit the world? To be a career boyfriend. What is the benefit? Because even if you have children, your children will look at your mother as unworthy and unfit to be a wife. And they will be around children of other races who their mother is a wife. And then they'll look at their father and say, you don't love my mom enough to marry her? You don't even just give it a shot. Like, y'all might not work out, but can she at least be married? Like, can I see my mama happy? Even for a season. If y'all don't work out, y'all human. Okay. Can you be faithful to my mama? Can you be faithful to my dad? So for me, I look at it like this bigger than me as an adult. This about the next generation. This about the future. So I have to consecrate and I got to sacrifice for those who are watching me. And I went through the season in my marriage where my son started to question my manhood because I wasn't being emotionally intelligent. Man, is my dad who I thought he was? And I realized I'm letting the voices of the MGTOW, men going their own way, or the red pill, I'm letting this affect me. And I know better. So I had to get myself together. Like, whoa, hold on now. I don't calculate and compute stuff like this. But that's how potent and dangerous those messages are.
Yes.
And what people don't understand is the power of the mind. If you put somebody's mind around messages that does not create advancement and progression in their life, then you are making them regress. And you just saying, I'm just creating a conversation. But the mind is delicate. So someone who doesn't have the mind to refute that which they just heard, someone bleeding on people, someone spewing from that broken place, they end up ruining their life. And that's why we have to curate the messaging and make sure that the message is about advancement, purity, wholeness, production, and going forward.
Listen, I love the message. He's absolutely on the ball, on the money, on that particular part of his message. And, 100% telling the truth about that. We've spoken about this on the channel as well, but yes, what he's describing here, because, and again, that comes from a Christian perspective, you know what I mean? So from a Christian perspective, I'm in alignment with what he's saying. I believe it to be absolutely true. I also understand that some people don't come from that perspective and they won't see it that way. But from a Christian perspective, yep. I definitely understand where he's coming from in that perspective and where he's shining the light on so that people can understand that, hey, we want you to be in a healthy relationship. We want you to see things in a healthy manner. We want you to, we want you to be in a place where, sorry, I just want to send this message for hold on. There we go. All right. Yeah. So, we want you to be in a healthy perspective, and we as Christians, our goal is to get from dating to marriage. And in fact, we didn't even do dating. This is why I always say about nuance. We weren't even dating before. People were literally, you meet the family, you marry. You understand what I'm saying to you? So there are different ways. We're growing and understanding. So we use wisdom. So yeah, I definitely understand what he's saying in that respect. And that message, I get it. And I understand that some messages can be destructive as well. Okay. So yeah, Tony's on the point. I can't deny what the brother is saying on that respect, to be honest. And like I said, I believe his message is true. I think you should follow him. I do actually, appreciate his message as well. So listen, audience, we got to go. It's almost been 2 hours. Look, if you're here and you've only been here for the first time, make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, and you click on that bell button as well. Listen, we like to have entertainment and education at the same time. We like to have really empowered conversations. In fact, before I go, actually, let me see. I don't know if anyone has a different point of view, because I know we've had a lot of people in the chat that have said their piece, and I would love to hear some perspectives, maybe to hear your point of view. You know what I mean? Keep it cute though, but we want to hear some point of view, right? So if you got a point of view that you want to hear, I would love to hear it. My conclusion is that in this situation, I think we can be nuanced. I think we can be balanced. I believe we can bring Christ into the situation as well. But I also believe as well that we need to be aware that though we are Christians, there are people that don't necessarily see the things the same way we do. How can I still reach you? I can reach you through psychology. You know, I reach people who are not Christians through psychology, and then I can bring Christianity to you. But that's my way. That doesn't have to be everybody's way. And so I have to be aware of that as well. Be nuanced about that perspective. But I would love to hear some points of view. If you've got a point of view, I would love to hear your point of view. Maybe, you know, you disagree with what I've said right now, or you feel like you feel a bit different from what I've spoken about for the last almost 2 hours. Maybe you're seeing it differently. I would love to hear your points of view. And please, we're on 146 likes. Please like the live if you're here already. You know, it just helps with the analytics. So if you're here already, press that like button, smash it, subscribe, click onto the bell button as well. We're trying to get to 100K. So also you can join our membership for our membership lives as well. But I would love to hear what you're going to say. Grace West said, can I say I love you? You know, you know it's love, Grace. You know, I appreciate you. But yeah, no, we'd love to hear your perspectives, guys, and ladies as well. Listen, if you've got a different perspective, or you agree or you disagree, this would be a great time to hear your perspective. You don't have to necessarily come up. We don't force you to come up around here if on certain days anyway. But if you want to speak on it, please, we'd love to hear. I love to hear your perspective as well, right? You know, I don't got caught I did, Felicia. I got myself caught up. I was meant to be on for an hour, and look what I've gone and done. I got myself caught up, baby. But yeah, I would love to hear your perspectives, guys. If you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to hear your perspectives. Love to hear what you guys got to say. You know, because you know this is some real stuff around here. You know, so if you've got a different point of view, by all means, click on the bell button. Okay, all right. Click on that bell button and share your thoughts and your opinions. But if not, I guess I got 4 minutes before it gets to 2 hours, and I'm gone. Empress said she's not buying it either. He's attractive, spoken, talks respectful, objective about relationships, and he has a platform, mostly women followers. I'm not buying it either. I hear that. People keep trying to change the word and Son of God to fit their situation and narratives. It is what it is. We're forgiven, but not unconditionally. God has conditions. That's why some will be left. Okay, I hear you. Okay, got Estella. Hey, Estella.
Hey, Kojo. I love the content here. I do listen to Tony sometime, but I have to take him with a grain of salt because as someone who's not practicing any religion at this point in my life, I have to chew the meat and spit out the bones. And with Tony, I do feel like he gets very self-righteous, or as you called it, to a level arrogant. But I am still able to hear different perspectives. And then as far as like the other characters who are in this like dating coaching atmosphere or sphere of like coaching, I listen to them as well, but a lot of times I don't agree with them. But as someone who's single and out there in the dating world, I have to like pay attention to that because this is going to be the mindset that a lot of people that I'll encounter while I'm dating are going to have. So it's like you said, you have to be open-minded and be willing to like take the information for what it is and not really take it so personal. I mean, you take it personal, right? But you have to use what works for you, and what doesn't work for you personally, you go with it, you learn from it, or you don't, right?
I love that, you know, and yeah, I mean, I think this is, you know, like I said, I like Tony's stuff, you know, I've listened to quite a bit of his stuff as well, and he be hitting the mark, you know, I don't always agree, but, you know, he be hitting the mark as well, because he comes from a Christian perspective, which I like as well. So, you know, I think you're right. I think we've got to take what you can from the situation, you know, spit out the bones in any particular situation as well. So, you know, that is definitely something I definitely agree with as well. So yeah, definitely love that point as well.
Thanks. All right, have a great day.
You too, babe. Any other thoughts, guys? Any other thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Any other thoughts? We love to hear your opinions, your thoughts. Yeah, we want to hear your thoughts, you know. Still got a few minutes, so If you'd love to have your say, click on that link. Let us know what you think of the Tony Gaskins video that he did recently. You know, you'd love to hear different perspectives, you know. Some of the comments. You know, I want to definitely hear what you guys got to say, you know. All right. What's your perspectives, guys? I know some of you were very active in the chat. I would love to hear some of your voices. Some of you were active in the chat. Why? You know, we'd love to hear your voice. Click on that link and let us know your thoughts. You guys were active in the chat, so I would love to hear what you guys got to say. You know what I mean? You know, we want to hear your perspective, you know? We want to hear your perspective. It'd be good to get a different point of view. Or is it that I should go home now? Is that what we're saying? Someone said we throw case of West said we throw stones and run. You know. I think for me, anyway, look, I mean, aside the Tony Gaskin situation, I personally, you know, I've made you know, my thought process of what, you know, knowing what God has called me to, right, which was always about making sure that you know, we try to bring the solutions. You know, I love to bring solutions to things. You know, I definitely want to be able to talk about things and you know, be able to describe and then be able to like, hey, this situation is such and such, and you need to look at it from this perspective because you want to bring healing in this area, you know. And a lot of time when I talk to clients and stuff like that, when I'm trying to help in terms of the coaching, and you know, again, I'm always trying to make sure that first and foremost the person gets a solution for what they need an answer to. Because, and again, this is why I said about marrying your faith with the wisdom that you have. The psychology is beautiful, right? Because it really does allow you to understand the mind and how it works. And a lot of times, like I always say this, we've got to marry the practicality and the spirituality. You know what I mean? So, you know, it be like that. You know what I'm saying? So no one person is perfect. And that's what I would say. You know, I'm not perfect. I have a predominantly woman audience like Tony. And the reason why we have a predominantly woman audience is because men don't gravitate to talking about relationships in the way that we talk about them oftentimes, right? In the way we talk about them. And so a lot of men aren't gravitating towards my platform and Tony's platform. More men gravitate towards people like Stefan Speaks. I think he has a bit more of a male audience as well than I do, and stuff, right? So, you know, as always, there's stuff that we can do to help grow and change things and be in a better space. But I don't want to ever put someone down just for the sake of putting them down. We've got to understand that people have different jobs, you know, and different pathways. So if no one's coming up, time is up. So I'm gonna bounce. But it's been a brilliant, it's been a good conversation, and I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Please, no one go and report back to Tony that I'm here trying to shake his name or whatever. It's not that. It's just that I feel like we have a different perspective. You know, so you know, me personally, you know, someone wants to tell Tony. You know what I mean? So he probably did want to tell it. I can feel it. He wanted to tell him that. You know what I mean? I know he wanted to tell him that. He wanted to tell him, listen, and this is why we quit. This is why we quit church. You know, I know he wanted to tell him that. And I again, like I said, not everybody's for everybody. Everyone's got their job in it. So, you know, I'm learning how to marry the faith, the word of God, and marry it with pop culture and reality TV, because I want to be able to touch people in a different place. You know what I mean? But that's my job, and that's someone else's job over. So, you know, I know that I knew he wanted to tell Tony that. He wanted to tell Tony. And this is why we quit religion. This is why we quit Jesus. You know what I mean? But everyone has different roles. You know what I mean? So, you know, we there. So if Tony does hear this and someone can send this to Tony, we actually like your content. I would love to be able to sit down and have a conversation with you. Please don't cuss me because I'm single. You know what I mean? I don't need to be here for it. But, you know, we'd love to have you on the platform. You know what I mean? And have a conversation. Yes, I'm single. You know, but I think we can definitely be able to talk about some real relationship issues that could help some people going forward as well. You know what I mean? So, you know, so yeah, it definitely is something we should get into. But much appreciation. Stay locked, stay loaded. We'll see you again very, very soon. And au revoir.